Well, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, welcome to the weekly Beacon TVL show, the weekly podcast from Beacon DeFi, your beacon in the world of decentralized finance. I'm your host, Professor Chris, your DeFi professor, and we got a great show lineup for you as we tackle the news of the week that's relevant to you, our dear users in the world of on-chain investing. So, just me on the show this week. A lot of people are still recovering from HCC in Cannes. And we've got a bunch of great panels lined up for the next couple weeks, but this week, just me. So always fun to do that. Let me go ahead and get my screen set up because I have not done that just yet. 1 second while I get that going. And this week I have actually got it working correctly to Abstract. So anybody on Abstract, welcome aboard to the weekly podcast here from Beacon DeFi. We're going to talk about the news of the week and educate you on what that means for you as a great investor here in decentralized finance. Any questions, feel free to drop a comment. Happy to answer any of that type of stuff for you. Let me get the markets up for you. Let me switch to this view. It's better overall. Let me widen the screen so it's a little bit nicer. All right. So over the last 7 days, we've definitely seen a retrace back to, especially for Ethereum back up almost to 2,700, getting back up to that 3,000 level where we definitely want to see that. A lot of things have gone into this, and we'll talk about that today. One thing I can definitely say is very interesting, and we'll talk about this in a minute, is Circle and Ripple wanting to become banks. We talked last week about Robinhood becoming their own DeFi entity, kind of just taking charge and announcing that they're going to be bringing a layer 2 down into DeFi, being built adjacent on top of the stack at Arbitrum through Arbitrum Orbit. And it's going to be, I don't know if they actually have a name for it, it's just going to be the Robinhood chain, if I'm not mistaken. But one thing that'll be interesting about it, it's going to be fairly walled off, I guess is the best way to describe it. You're going to, to my knowledge at this point, it's only going to be open. The service is in there to Robinhood users on the chain, kind of like Sonium. A lot of the interactions are going to be whitelisted, meaning that there's only certain protocols you're going to be able to interact with, which I think for the majority of users is fine. But we'll see how that works out. In any case, big win for Ethereum because they could have gone to Solana, they could have gone to their own blockchain, their own layer 1, but they decided to stack on top of not just Ethereum, but Arbitrum, which is a very established multi-VM blockchain with fast settlement, quick finality on blocks. Still an optimistic rollup, so there's still that 7-day window for challenges up to L1 Ethereum. So, but yeah, good for them. So 1 second. You'll have to bear with me. I'm a bit, I wouldn't say under the weather, but I'm definitely having allergy issues. Whether this with air quality, who knows what. But yeah. Anyway, looking at bubbles, we just go with the day. A lot of green out here. Some big winners out here. Definitely hype still on the move up. If we're looking at just on the day, if we look at the month, we get to see a lot more of narrative movement. Bonk.fun has beat out Pump.fun in daily fees for the first time ever. That's a big win for them. Kronos, we'll talk about the reason they're up 15%. If you're a long-time Kronos holder, congrats. There's the legwork has worked off. I mean, has worked out. On the month, still looking at the same winners. Overall, Pengu has a NASCAR partnership, which is huge for them. Arrow still on the up and up due to Coinbase bringing all of Aerodrome up to Coinbase.com. So anything that's listed on Aerodrome, for the most part, should be listed now on Coinbase.com or starting to. So I think you have to be a specific user to see all that, but more of that. Say is still winning, so good for Say. They're still looking pretty good, uh, up a bit. Same thing with Uni, and good for Kaya. But yeah, a lot of news coming out that's hopefully going to be really good. Aave has put out a lot of information on how they just hit another milestone with net TVL in the billions. So good for them. They are they're going to continue to be a mainstay of DeFi moving forward. I am going to go ahead and cover the one thing that's been pretty heavy on my mind this morning. I'm actually, to be very honest, I'm very upset about this. So GMX, OG DeFi protocol, the caretaker of what we call real yield in this space, has suffered a pretty terrible exploit on GMX V1. Now, the majority of the world that uses GMX does so on V2. V1 includes the very small trading floor that's backed by GLP. GLP and GMX version 1, very easy to understand farming position. Basically, you have an index fund. It's 50% BTC and ETH, and then 50% stable coins for minimal and permanent loss. The reason for that is because BTC and ETH, they travel fairly well together. They're fairly well correlated. So this GLP pool was a liquidity backstop for the GMX V1 trading floor. So trader P&L affected, made the rate for GLP go up weekly. I believe it's on Wednesdays is when that happened. But the one thing about GMX V1 or GLP, that was outdated almost more than 2 years ago at this point. GLP stopped getting ESGMX rewards, which is linear uh, GMX that turned into regular GMX after 12 months. And GMX V2 rolled out shortly after, which moved the majority of the liquidity and rewards from this older model to GMX V2, which is, here with GLV and all this type of stuff. So frankly, there really shouldn't have been anyone with significant capital here inside of GLP, because there really wasn't a whole lot of reason for you to even be there. Forget about the APR. Because they've actually paused all of the activity here. So the algorithm is still going. You can't redeem or anything like that. It's very unfortunate that this has happened. There's a lot of finger pointing going on at the moment. A lot of it is even at Circle, because they have the power to freeze funds. I don't know if you knew that, but that's the one thing that is quite interesting about USDC and USDT, because they are centralized stablecoins. They're not decentralized stablecoins. Uh, they have the power to actually freeze the funds. They didn't actually do it though. USDT tried Tether. They did try. They just the attacker kind of eluded them by a matter of like 20 seconds. But they tried to get it, but it's all been bridged from Ethereum. Not all of it, but quite a bit of it has been bridged from Arbitrum to Ethereum using CCTP, using Circle's actual infrastructure. They didn't step in and freeze these funds to keep it from happening. Now, it is what it is, right? It's unfortunate, but um, I am hoping that this is, for the most. I mean, I'm hoping that this is a white hat hacker, and what that means is a researcher who came in, found a bug, executed. If they, maybe they mentioned it to the group at GMX, and nothing happened. So in any case, right now it's just the waiting game. Everyone is just monitoring. At this point, from a fun standpoint, not much that the hacker can do because everyone's watching. Um, the one thing about being in DeFi is that code is law. So exploits as these, as unfortunate as they are they're meant to harden the system. This has raised a lot of eyebrows with GMX being as well audited as they are, and then if you're in version 2, which is all the GM pools, you're unaffected by this. Um, so even if you're on GMX on Solana, you are unaffected by this as well. It's just unfortunate. And hopefully this is a white hat hacker. Hopefully they will return the funds for probably a 10% bounty. 42 million is what went out the door, is what I'm hearing so far. So we're monitoring. I did put posts on our communities about this. And yeah, I mean, we can kind of talk about some lessons. I mean, the first thing would be to not overinvest. We put this, of course, in our university content. Never put more than 10% in any one protocol. We can't predict these outcomes, right? Even though they are well audited, this is something that still got exploited. There's just no such thing in any space as a risk-free investment. So that means you got to diversify your portfolio. So if something like this happens, you're not completely hurt by this. The second thing I would definitely say is stay connected to the protocol. They pretty much put the writing on the wall 2 years ago for GMX V1. So you shouldn't have been in GLP other than just to learn about how the protocol works. With any significant capital, you should have moved over to GMV2. GLP is a great example of a really great way to talk about the fundamentals of perp dexes and staking in what is today's modern version of what's out there in today's DeFi. So the other part too is, again, just diversify your portfolio. There are multiple ways to get great yield on your capital. You shouldn't have put more than any significant amount in GLP because it is outdated, that type of thing. With that said, probably take a minute to look at your portfolio. And if you don't have a system, get a system. That will definitely be a good place to start. Get a system, get allocated. We talk about this all the time in our group at Total Value Locked. This is our free community. Let me go ahead and put the banner up for that, school.com/beacon. Absolutely free to join. This is stuff we talk about all the time. Check out our Start Here post. You can check out our Introduction to DeFi modules. Get a great message from myself and from Andrew. And you can learn from the best of the best. We also have a great course we're also putting on right now called our Challenge course. You can take the Beacon Challenge and earn your first dollar within 48 hours. Again, beacondefi.io/challenge. Get in and get into your first position to earn money. But yeah, this is definitely a head scratcher, and we will move on and get better from this point. So again, a lot of good lessons to be learned here, and hopefully nobody was seriously affected by this. Again, this is something that we've talked about for a long time in terms of GLPs. You don't really even get rewards anymore. I mean, it's very slight. So we do have that message here. Thanks again to Jirachi, who's a regular on our panel, for getting me the alert. This happened earlier this morning, and we will update our communities, of course, in the event that we find anything else that is new. This does affect all GMX V1 forks as well. The only one I know of, I'm sure there are some others out there that have some mechanisms. Navigator Exchange on Sonic, on Phantom Sonic, their NLP, which is their crypto pool, has been paused out of safety. But we'll see. We are going to monitor this moving forward. With that said, let's move on to other news. This is big news from last week. Circle and Ripple applied for trust/bank licenses with the US OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. This is mainly big news because essentially they would become banks in the event that they get approved. And to my knowledge, they probably will get approved. No idea what the timeline is on this. Obviously, there's all kinds of red tape. There could be some legal challenges here. Who knows? I'm sure the banking cabal is going to put their hands up and say something. Whether or not that actually happens or any issues, I'm not sure. One thing about Circle, they do have their collateral for USDC sitting at several of these quote unquote big seven or too big to fail banks. Mainly a Bank of New York Mellon is really where the majority of their USDC backing is held. This is something that came into light when USDC depegged almost 2 years ago now. Went down to 88 cents. So good on you who all got in on that depeg. I did. So but yeah, this is the USDC as a centralized stablecoin. They're well audited. They put out monthly audits about their proof of reserves. They are very public about that. Always have been, and that's one reason why we like USDC over USDT. USDT has gotten better over time. They're now mostly T-bills and other cash equivalents. But for a long time, they were very secretive about what the backing was uh, for their reserves. They're pretty much in line now and doing a better job about that. So XRP getting this bank charter actually is going to be huge for them because they have multiple money licenses around the world where they can operate and issue, payments and that type of thing. So them getting access to traditional banking rails will actually be very good for them. Um, the ability for them to just access clearinghouses, like the ACH clearinghouse in the United States, and being able to wire money under their own charter back and forth will just be very good for their customers. Um, we probably will never see anyone get debanked because of crypto now, moving forward, because of this. The winner, I think, on this is that for Circle becoming a bank actually is going to be Coinbase. Coinbase, all of their partners immediately benefit from the banking ties they'll have once. And I want to say the name of the bank is National First National Trust or something like that. I think is what's going to be called. Uh, the official name will come out soon. But Coinbase has multiple ties on Wall Street thanks to the deal we talked about, previously, probably about 3 months ago, where the NYSE is now partnered with them, and actually not the NYC, but their parent company, which is called ICE. Not that ICE, that ICE. This is called ICE is the Intercontinental Exchange, and they're the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange. So Coinbase has very deep ties with tokenization, with technology, all of that within Wall Street. Now they're going to have that on the banking side as well. Um, One thing too is that if they're going to be big banks, they're going to compete directly with big multinational banks, the J.P. Morgans, HSBC, Citi, uh, Deutsche Bank, Santander. All of these that are out there now have to look at Circle and Ripple because they're, well, at least from Circle's standpoint, they're a publicly traded company. So we're gonna see a lot of interesting moves here, I think. Because one thing that I can say about a lot of the banks, while most of them, like Goldman Sachs, for example, which is not necessarily a banking conglomerate, but they do have a lot of ties there, and JP Morgan, they've been testing blockchain for years now. So while they may be ready, there's going to be a lot of other banks, frankly, a lot of smaller regional banks, not ready for this move to really blend in services for stablecoin custody as well as for any of the financial fintech adapters that will ultimately be built off of this. And I think that's okay because I think there's a lot of people still here in the United States and across the world that are still very scared of crypto, of digital assets, of fintech in that way. I mean, obviously, I just talked about it in Exploit GMX. Um, they still want to use a traditional bank, and I completely understand that. I, for one, want to use. I like having a brick and mortar bank and having a relationship with them, but I'm totally mostly digitally online with my banking. So for me, this is something I am embracing. If this is something that you're having a hard time embracing, then know that the banks aren't going away, right? They're going to be around, for a long time, and there's nothing really, left to really worry about. So the other thing I'll say is that, and we can talk about neobanks and their decentralized versions, which are now called DO banks, another day. But yeah, having these two at the forefront will make decentralized banking fairly easy to transition to, right? Because they're already doing it from a Coinbase perspective. Not really sure how ready XRP is, but as I mentioned last week, XRP has a very large presence in MENA, which is Middle East and Africa. They should capitalize on that, and hopefully they do with RLUSD and all of these different stable coins that they have. So getting direct access. The Genius and the Stable Act should be passed within 30 days at this point. August 4th was the date that that President Trump was looking for, or rather, that was the date he was given with regards to this legislation. So we should see more of this, fairly soon. Okay, so let's move on to the next piece of news. And this one, heard rumors about it, but this is the reason why Crow is up. Well, it's down now. Why Crow is up 16%. And that is because, Trump Media, I think Trump Tech or whatever they're called, the company that owns President Trump's TruthSocial brand, has filed an S1 with the SEC to launch a crypto blue chip ETF. And here's the interesting part. The ETF itself is BTC, ETH, Sol, and then Kronos and XRP. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. There's a comment here. Is a bank allowed to have its own currency? They will, starting August 4th or whenever that takes place. Bank of America has already said they're going to once it's legal. And JP Morgan's already got it with Connexus, their institutional brand. So it's it's coming. JP Morgan already has JPMD, which is their institutional stablecoin. So that's already live on base. I'm really just putting this out there for Cardano fans. For all you ADA holders, this is a dark day. um, the CEO of crypto.com has been doing the legwork. They went and got, they went and got money licenses in Singapore and Hong Kong and Dubai, went out there, put in the work. They're good. I think they're good in the MiCA with the EU as well. I knew that when he was on the campaign trail talking to President Trump that there were going to be some interesting shenanigans. This is interesting shenanigans because for all intents and purposes, Crow is, for the most part, not that great of a coin. Check out its price action. Never been that great of a coin, to be quite honest. Crypto.com is a fine CEX. Have been a long-time customer, just like I've been a long-time customer of Coinbase. I think at this point, if you're crypto.com, you've got to stop doing the mobile app. That's the only way you can get money into crypto is through their mobile app, which I guess is fine, but have a desktop way to do it. I still don't understand why they don't have that. I mean, they have a tax service, but they still make you use the mobile app. Yeah. If you're a Cardano fan, let me know in the comments. How much does this make you just sickened to see Crow picked over ADA? Or if you're a Litecoin fan, LTC, you got picked over with Crow. Yeah, I mean, if you can see some of these, actually, my big head is covering some of these, but a lot of people are saying Crow as a okay. So this is a blue chip ETF, guys, a blue chip ETF. If you had Crow as a blue chip ETF on your bingo card this year, congrats. Probably got blackout of the century in that case. Um, yeah, I guess hard work pays off in the case of crypto.com. So ultimately, that is that's the news about this ETF. Now, how soon Yorkville America Digital LLC? That's probably a Trump entity right there that's sponsoring this. Now, again, this is just a filing. It's not live. Uh, I don't think it's just a public sale, if I'm not mistaken. Nothing that says anything about it being a staking ETF, which would be interesting. Sol has a staking ETF, I think in Canada, but I don't know if there's one in the US just yet. But this is for those of you who are hardline libertarians. Do you like the President of the United States having this kind of stuff? It's like one of those things where you're excited that the current administration is so pro crypto, but do you want it at the expense of having a gigantic footprint of the president being in crypto? Has anyone really stopped to think about that? I know we have multiple people in our group who are not happy about this. It is what it is. All right, let's move on. Interesting news. Phantom, the wallet that we recommend for Solana, now has Phantom perps. I wish I could just make this larger. Let's see. There we go. So you can actually do perps inside of Phantom. Fun part, it's using Hyperliquid. You've got a gigantic Jupiter just sitting right there. JLP has 1.5 billion in assets under management. Technically, it's kind of crazy because they still only have 3 perps, but they chose Hyperliquid. I get it why Phantom did it because they're a multi-chain wallet, right? Phantom is no longer just Solana. Phantom works with Solana. It works with I'm trying to think of the exact EVM chains it works with. It works with Bitcoin. It works with Sui, and it works with definitely Base, Ethereum mainnet, and Polygon, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe Arbitrum. But this is a choice. This is definitely a choice for them to choose Hyperliquid over, over Jupiter. It's interesting, in my opinion. Um, they're not the first wallet to do this. If you're a fan of DeFi.app, they're also bringing Hyperliquid, but they're the first to market with it, which is interesting. So Let me see if we can pull this up from the blog post. Okay, so they're not doing every single market, 100 plus. So, as well as the hottest memes like Pepe, Fartcoin, and Doge. I'm not going to be able to check out Hyperliquid Core because of the I don't have my VPN on. But what this does do is it allows you to have access to the hottest perp DEX, which is Hyperliquid, in your pocket. Right? It's one thing to be able to trade on a CEX app. That's fine, mobile first, whatever. But doing it in DeFi, using your DeFi wallet, I think is a really compelling use case. Um, Man, again, why they didn't choose Jupiter for this and make this a thing? Is Jupiter Perps V2 not a thing? I don't know. Man, that is something. But anyway, you have the ability to do it here within the app. I'm not the biggest fan of how, I don't want to use the word clunky or even like, there's not a lot of real estate on the mobile front. Now, if you're using like a tablet, that's different, right? But yeah, you have the ability to do very basic, long and short and trading positions here. So, and I guess you can take leverage. Never mind, you can take some leverage here. Yeah, so this is a big move for Phantom. They definitely made a choice. I think it makes sense, not only because they are in multiple ecosystems, regardless of not choosing Jupiter, they are in multiple ecosystems. Them being connected to Arbitrum makes sense because it's easy to onboard a Hyperliquid Core, and you're going to have to do it from Arbitrum anyway. So this is a big move for Phantom. Let me know in the comments if you're happy about this. If anything, this is HIP3, which is Hyperliquid's improvement protocol proposal 3 to bring Hyperliquid everywhere, coming to fruition. I just hit my mic. These are things that are exciting. These are the things that people want to see. So curious to see where we go from here and how Jupiter responds, honestly, because we're big proponents of JLP, which is Jupiter's perps coin. A little bit of a pivot. I'm going to turn to this. Many of you guys know I like buying ROI devices. They're not all DPIN, by the way. We could say that these are all quote unquote DPIN, but they're not. They're all ROI devices in some case, right? You're going to buy something that is powered by decentralized rails, and you're hoping that you're going to be able to get a return on your investment that works well. So thanks to NNXN and NXXN, who is someone that I follow quite a bit, although I'm apparently not following you on Twitter. My bad. I follow you on Twitter, on Discord. Couple of these things I do own. I don't have the Ledger Flex Solana edition. Nobody does, but I do have a reservation for this Play Solana gaming device. I do have the Seeker V2. A lot of these are going to come with really good airdrops, and that's the one thing that people look at when they're looking at these devices. Whether it's even like the $99 Jambo phone or the EthOS device that's coming out soon as well. One second. Ideally, what I like about this, specifically this wellness ring, which I'm going to follow right now, and this other Pulse No Limits. Actually, I've been following them for a while now. I remember them. Cool. They've pivoted. Apparently, Grass is going to have a hardware device too, and Grass is a DPIN project we've talked about in the past. It uses your residential internet and rewards you in Grass tokens for your troubles to help train LLM models. So you're helping train AI using your own resources. That's where DePIN gets its aura from. The ability to purchase a device like this mobile hotspot um, from Helium, which is now partnered, I believe, with AT&T, or is it T-Mobile, one of the two, for their hotspot devices. And you earn mobile, or not AT&T, I think it's mobile token now, as a bit of a revenue stream. So you buy these things, they pay for themselves over time because you are earning residual income off of them. So when people ask, if I don't have a ton of money, what's something I could do besides just farming? I'm look at DeepIn. DeepIn's always an interesting spot to go into. We've talked about DeepIn on this show previously, as well as on our Friday training, which is called Beat the Banks, which happens every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. These are cool products. The reason why I like this health ring is because for me personally, I do wear a wearable specifically to get data so I can see how my health is doing. Um, the one thing that's great about Web3 is that at least in Web3, you own your data, right? Stuff like this, they're storing their data. Technically, yes, you own your data, but it is being shared. It is being used to train. At least if you own your data, if you opt into that stuff, hopefully there'll be flows in the future when we have mostly Web3 devices, where if someone wants to include you in a directory, for example, let's say for like data brokers, they actually have to pay you a specific amount for you to be quote unquote anonymously included in that type of stuff. And what I mean by that is, if you didn't know this, most businesses know a lot about you. They may not know exactly who you are, but they know a lot about your behavior. Why? Because a lot of your information is for sale. Voting records, utility bills, anytime you go to sign up for to win a vacation or a truck or a free car, all that data is being sold to quote unquote marketing partners. The majority of those marketing partners are data brokers. I can tell you that's true because I worked for one for many years. Um, change of address records, all that's sold, guys. I don't know if you knew that. It's all sold. When we get into the world where Web3 becomes a thing and you own your own data, I'm very curious to see how much our data is going to be worth to be sold. Um, it, and what I mean by sold is most likely rented, right? There are a lot of products that help you with that, like Demo, for example, DIMO, the car startup where they have a device that sits in your car. You earn Demo tokens for using the service because that information gets sold uh, to insurance, to car manufacturers, various people on the secondary market that use it for their purposes. So you providing that information, they actually pay you for that. Imagine a world where you get paid for your behavior and your attention. That's what DeFi provides, and that's why it's so powerful uh, that we have access to these devices. Now, one thing I will say about these devices is that not all of them are going to provide ROI. Right? Let's be honest. This PSG1 from Play Solana, great, excited about it. Like my Solana Seeker, going to be one of my favorite hardware wallets I've ever had. But will it come back with all the airdrops that you're going to be promised through some of these devices? No, the Ledger Flex probably will never have an airdrop, but the Play Solana, the PSG1, yes. Solana Seeker, yes, absolutely. In fact, there's a hackathon coming up that we've signed up for that uh, a lot of people are very curious about developing apps for the Seeker to get your eyeballs and attention. So, really excited about what's coming on Solana. Solana's long been the home of DePIN, whether that's through Hive Mapper, which is this decentralized app company. They're trying to make decentralized version of Google Maps or Apple Maps. Just people buying these. They're called B scans now. Anyway, tokens honey, but you could have done that for yield a long time ago. Render is one, Grass is one. Helium, they've all pivoted to being hosted on Solana because it's just a better way to do it. So yeah, really excited to see how this is going. Excited to see the ROI. Seeker comes out August 4th. So when I get mine in 30 days, happy to do a video to unbox it. And again, I have absolutely no interest in using this as my daily phone. I'll be very honest, because the Solana Saga, which was the first Solana phone, a very mid-tier phone. They tried to sell it for $1,000. Was largely panned by tech enthusiasts. Um, they lowered it to $600, but then offered $500 in bonk right before the Coinbase listing and a bunch of other stuff. Those phones sold on the market on the like eBay and stuff like that, with the airdrop intact on those. I don't know, up to 2 to 5K per phone. So we're going to see, more of this. Now, the new Solana phone, the Seeker, it's going to have some AI built in from what I remember. It's got decent specs. It's not amazing. All right. I'm not unbelievably excited about, using it as an actual phone. But as a hardware wallet, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be the prettiest hardware wallet I'll ever have. Plus, it has biometrics. Be great for that. So I would definitely use it for that. Same thing with the PSG1. We'll have a fingerprint reader on the back. It's the same size. It's pretty much like a larger Game Boy, if you're familiar with the Game Boy, just the Game Boy aesthetic. That's what the PSG1's going to look like. So, yeah, there it is. So, yeah, like I said, really nice hardware wallet. uh, One thing too, I forgot to put this out here. Uh, we don't have a ton of people from the UK, but Phantom Perps apparently they're available everywhere, but in the UK. And technically, they're not really available in the US either, because Hyperliquid's not available to US residents either. So, take a vacation. Vacation, of course, is spelled VPN, if you didn't know that. All right. So, last big thing to talk about this week before we kind of go into a couple questions. Pump.fun has been talking about a token launch, an ICO, initial coin offering, for quite some time now. Well, they've decided to do this on a grand scale, big fashion. So let's look a little bit about the tokenomics. And by the way, the sale's happening on Saturday, July 12th. When people ask, are you going to buy this? I'm personally not. When people ask, are you going to short this? Thinking about it. Thinking about it, honestly. Is this AI generated? Isn't it crazy when you look at something these days and you're like, did they really film this or is it all AI generated? But any case, there is an airdrop coming soon. A lot of people in our group, if you are trenching or if you're just a meme coin trader, should qualify for this. Is it going to be a really big airdrop? Probably not. It all depends on how they go towards Sybils, right? Because there are tons of people who have multiple wallets that do that have been preparing for this. So it's all about how they handle that part. Anyway, looking at tokenomics, 20% to the team, not bad, not bad. Existing investors, so 33% are going to people that got in on the private sale. I'm guessing there's at least a 1-year cliff. Yeah, It doesn't tell me exactly. So if you're going to buy it, it's going to be available on a CEX near you, which means uh, you're going to have to KYC. If that's something you're not down with, you can wait, or you can put a short out on Hyperliquid, right? Anyway, we're going to see incentives and initiatives through Pump.Fund probably over the next year, with Pump being given out. 3% live streaming. Interesting. They're going to have a foundation with roughly about 4% where they can do a bunch of different initiatives. You'll probably see a Pump.Fund party at Token 2049 in Singapore this year. Wouldn't be shocked if I see that. Liquidity exchange is 2.6%. That makes a lot of sense. And then the ICO itself is 33%. So not bad tokenomics. Seems that the majority of it is going to be coming out to the public, which is good. This isn't a terrible allocation. This is fine. It is what it is. They needed to get bootstrapped anyway. Of course, the private sale has been fully allocated. I was not offered that, but I do know multiple people who were. And I do believe it is a 1-year cliff minimum. So we'll see kind of how that works out. But I'm curious to see where Pump goes from here. Yeah, so 2 p.m. UTC. So that is 10 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. And of course, US and UK citizens cannot participate in the Pump ICO. The moment I saw Gate, Mexi, and Bybit and KuCoin, I knew this was going to be a no-go for US. So, and there are a lot of people who are quite upset with this. At the end of the day, Pump.Fund's a business, right? Regardless of the craziness that happened, the second and third order effects of what they wanted to do, the amount of fees they've already made daily for the last 18 months is staggering. Did they really need to do this? No, honestly. But there are probably some initiatives. I mean, they're looking to kill Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch. That's where the live streaming comes in, because you can live stream on Pump. Maybe I should live stream on Pump. But yeah, anyway, they know where the bread's buttered. There's a lot of people who are trenching who use Pump.Fund. Why? Because people love meme coins. Even if you don't, there's tons that do. There are tons that make a lot of money off of meme coins. And it's a bit of a zero sum game unless you have that edge, and that edge is hard to get, right? You want good edge, come join us at Total Value Locked, right? School.com/beacon. But yeah, looking forward to seeing this. The more I think about it, the more I'd probably, obviously not financial advice, do your own research. I'd short, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, so go on to something we haven't done in a long time, which is our call for help segment at the end. We generally have a community to feature, but we don't have that today. So we will soon. Got a couple people coming on next week that really excited to share with you guys. They have white lists that you can sign up for. So excited to talk about that next week. So tune in for next week. Obviously, like, follow, subscribe. Really appreciate the support. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on X, if you're watching me on my stream on Abstract right now, would love the support. Follow along, keep your notifications on. We'll talk more about that soon. Question I get a lot is, what's the right pool that I should get into if I have a little bit of knowledge about the space? What would you go into? The answer is pretty, pretty much the same for me, and that's going to our friends at Beefy. The reason why, they're on a gazillion different chains, and they have a pool for just about all risk appetites, right? Whether you're just looking to do a single-sided pool, wow, IMF through Morpha for USDS, which is the old DAI, for 50% with 35 million in underlying TVL. Again, this is on, you'd have to go to ETH mainnet, so that's the only thing. That's nuts. If I just sort by current APY, that gives you the best examples. Obviously, Barachain is Barachain, and this is, I wouldn't. I mean, they're trying to wind this down. So yeah, this is the top of the heap here. Now, generally, what I tell people is to look at stablecoins. Why? Because stablecoins are an easy concept to understand. They're digital assets whose value is pegged to the U.S. dollar. There are other fiat stablecoins, like for example, on base we have the Brazilian real, Indonesian rupiah, New Zealand digital dollar, Canadian dollar. They're bringing more of the forex coins as stablecoins on base on Aerodrome. Uh, Quite a bit for the rest of the year. They only have 10 right now, but stablecoins are an easy recommendation, right? Wow, no idea what USDF is, but let's go with CLM. And the reason why I choose CLM from our friends at Beefy is that this is one thing about Beefy is what we call a yield optimizer. You put your money in, it optimizes the yield by auto compounding, and it does it daily. The beauty of compound interest in DeFi is something you cannot deny. Okay. A lot of people ask, are these rates real? Yeah, they're very much real. You can get into a pool yourself and just kind of understand. So and when I say, are the rates real? Magic ETH on Camelot, 290K. Wouldn't get in that pool. But Uni ETH is at 50. What is going on here? Wowza. Man. Anyway, concentrated liquidity means is that they actually manage the vault for you, which is great. It's a hands-off approach. And what's great about these is that you can come in, select anything inside your wallet, and it'll go ahead and swap it for you in the background. So for example, I have some USDC here. Let me just do this. It's going to go ahead and take care of all of that for me in what's called a zap and put it into the position for me. Like literally in less than 2 minutes, I have a position, which is amazing. And that's the beauty of Beefy. That's the reason why I recommend it above all. Now, stablecoins, CLMs, auto compounded, auto rebalanced, compounds daily. And the beauty of compound interest is the Canadian dollar versus USDC, 36%. What's your bank giving you? Not bad. So when people ask, how do I use this to pay bills? I have multiple people in our group who use stablecoin farming literally as a way to pay their tax burden every single year. They pop a decent amount of size into one of these pools, and then every quarter they'll come in, they'll withdraw a portion because you can always withdraw a certain amount, not all, but just like, 5-10% of it. Use that, pay down their tax burden for the rest of the, every quarter, however often you do it. It's up to you. Not financial advice, do your own research. But when people ask, what's the pool that I always recommend? I always say Beefy. Why? Longtime friends of the show. We've had EP, one of their core team members on our show multiple times as a rotating panelist. I've been a day one user of Beefy since 2020, and I love this protocol. Why? Because they give me the time that I need to work more for you guys and spend time with my family. Because in a hands-off approach like this, I just have to monitor, check out my P&L every once in a while, just make sure Now, what's great about stablecoins is that you don't have to worry about the directional exposure as much as something as, for example, the current value of GMX. Stablecoins, they're roughly going to be around $1. Now, the Canadian dollar is, of course, lagging behind the USDC. So that's one thing. But you could do something like USDT, USDC.E. This is on Lisk, the layer 2 protocol, layer 2 blockchain in the OP superchain. Roughly about 30%. That's actually a pretty decent deal. Frax USDT. Frax, one of the first algorithmic decentralized stablecoins out there. Very OG. This is on Arbitrum. 10%? Not bad. As long as you're getting anywhere between 7 and 20%, 20% is like that quote unquote holy grail that we love to see. But as long as you're getting anywhere near it, I think that's a good deal. Now, these rates do fluctuate. They're not going to stay here at 36%. It could go down to 3, could go back up to 60. You just have to understand there's a moving average, and they'll tell you what the moving average is here. If I just go to APY and I check the moving average, I can check it at any point in time once it does come up. 18.95%. Obviously, in certain times, it's higher. Like it went up to whatever for some reason, 444. Yeah, anyway, you come out ahead. That's all that matters. And then I'll talk about a project we're going to talk about on our membership call in about an hour for market making liquidity. If you're one of our mastermind members, we're going to talk a little bit about HLP0, which is in hyperliquid, period, to all my hyperliquid fans. And it's a public good from layer 0. So if you want to do some research on that, check that out. But they do have a wonderful website where they actually point out the different types of yield that you can get. So we'll be talking about that in just a minute. Wrapping it all up, again, I do like doing these solo shows because I do get some time to double check that. Let me handle this comment real quick. I like beefy over VFAT. Yes, better pools overall. VFAT's great. Don't get me wrong. Been a long time user of VFAT before they pivoted to what they are now. But their auto rebalancing has been a little shaky, whereas I know I can always count on what's going on at beefy. So VFAT's great though. You need to diversify your portfolio, find different things. Anyway, school.com/beacon. You will learn from the best in the business. Get your feet wet. Learn a little bit more about what does it mean to be an on-chain investor here in decentralized finance. DeFi is the future of finance, guys. It's the future of how we're going to be doing business moving forward, especially now with all of these things happening with legislation, stable coins, institutions coming down into DeFi. Had a great talk with the head of North American product for MasterCard when I was in New York City last week about what we do. We just kind of talked about the landscape, and we're going to have them on the show soon as well to talk a little bit about crypto identity as well as just the value of crypto and DeFi to MasterCard, who's been in the space, if you don't know, a very long time. They've been testing payment rails on ETH mainnet for years. But 2 years ago, they came out with their first MasterCard through Binance on the CEX side. So as long as you had funds on Binance and I also think on BNB, you had the ability to spend those funds anywhere that MasterCard is accepted, which is 90% of the world. So MasterCard, a really big part of our space. So yeah, be careful out there. Obviously, we're still monitoring what's happening with GMX. That's an unfortunate optic. Still really personally upset about that. Yep. Still looking good with the market. We're still up on the 24-day XRP on the news of that, probably going up. Their XRPL mainnet, their EVM sidechain, now live as well to work with their XRP ledger. We'll be talking about that as well in our mastermind liquidity thing. So again, if you're interested in joining us and becoming a part of our mastermind, check out our Start Here module. We have ways to do that so you can talk to our team and be amongst the best here in the business. So, thanks to our mastermind founding members, of course. Thanks to our mastermind members at large and our Beacon Challenge members for helping make all of this possible. We're here every Wednesday like we have been since December 2021. We've been doing this show for almost 4 years now, guys, where we talk about the news every week and we break it down for you so you can understand how to make it uh, to easily digest the information that's out here in front of you. Hopefully, you found great value today. If you did, please click on the follow button, the like button, wherever you are on whatever platform we're on. Also, we are available in a podcast format. Anywhere you get your podcast, we're also there as well. Would appreciate any support on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and all those other places where you can find your favorite uh, podcasts. So we'll be back with a great panel next week. It's a lot of fun just doing this by myself today. I always enjoy those things because it's not often that I get to do these by myself. So again, I'm Professor Chris, your DeFi professor, and we'll see you next week for another great panel here on the Total Value Lock Show. As we always say here, beacons up, banks down. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.